Good morning, and welcome to the UU Church of the South Hills, also known as Sunnyhill. We are delighted you could join us for this service. Our mission at Sunnyhill is to create a more just and compassionate community within and beyond our walls. My name is Roxy Mountjoy, and I serve as worship associate for this congregation. If you are a newcomer or visitor to our congregation, please go to sunnyhill.org and click on the button that says New to Sunnyhill to receive more information about our congregation and to receive our weekly email newsletter. If you're joining us online today, please say hello or good morning in the comments on Facebook or YouTube. We'd like to hear from you and extend a welcome to you as well. For all those who are here in person, a gentle reminder. Please silence your cell phones and other electronic devices so that we can enjoy this service uninterrupted by buzzing or ringing. If you have a restless infant or toddler with you today and need a place to take a break outside the sanctuary, we have an infant care room back in the corner that you can access from the hallway, where you can still see and hear the service. Today's service addresses the question, why do wild geese keep finding their way into poems? This service will explore the meaning and significance of the creatures in the poetry of Mary Oliver, my favorite poet, Wendell Berry, and others. Our opening reading, which was written by Erica Hewitt, starts with these lines from Mary Oliver's poem, Wild Geese.
Sorry.
Just like we planned. You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert repenting. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves.
As we enter into this time together, put away the pressures of the world that ask us to perform, to take up masks, to put on brave fronts. Silence the voices that ask you to be perfect. This is a community of compassion and welcoming.
You do not have to do anything to earn the love that is present here. You do not have to be braver, smarter, stronger, better than you are in the moment to belong here with us.
You only have to bring the gift of your body, no matter how able, your seeking mind, no matter how busy, your animal heart, no matter how broken.
Bring all that you are and all that you love to this hour together.
Thank you. We'll light our chalice with a responsive reading. After each line that I read, please respond by saying, "We light our chalice." For all that we are, we light our chalice. For all that we love, we light our chalice. For all that we might become together, we light our chalice.
Good morning. Please rise in body and or spirit for our opening hymn, Blue Boat Home.
Though below me I feel no motion, standing on these mountains and plains, far away from the rolling ocean, still my drive and heart can say, I've been sailing all my life now, never harbored a port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home.
Good morning. Come with me. If any children are present and you would like to join me up at the front for our story, come on up. And we're going to have a seat right here. You could stand next to me. Okay. Good morning, friends. So this is Benjamin. He's going to be my helper today. This story is called The Birds Learn About Friendship. Did you know there are 1,062 different kinds of birds that make their homes in the jungles, wetlands, and along the coast of Burma? Yes, you knew that? I didn't know that. I'm impressed. Wow.
My uncle studies birds, so.
Well, you have an in. Now I understand. And you're holding a bird. And I've got birds on my sweater. Got a big brain. Okay. Better than a bird brain. All right. Once upon a time, those 1,062 kinds of birds did not get along. They were always making a terrible ruckus. Does anybody know what a ruckus is? Big fight. Yeah, like a big fight, lots of noise. Why do you flap your wings so fast? Your feathers are too red. With that technique, you'll never be able to catch a worm. Often the birds got so carried away that they said, "I'm a better bird than you." There was no friendship amongst the birds, and not so much fun either. Finally, Pheasant grew wary. He didn't want to quarrel, so when Crow came along, ready to pick an argument, Pheasant said, "Crow, you're a better bird than me." Crow was surprised. Those words warmed his heart, and he replied politely, "No, Pheasant, you're a better bird than me." Pheasant's heart felt warm. The two struck up a conversation. They got to know one another and found out that they got along very well. Before long, they decided to live side by side. The two birds enjoyed one another very much. Now, their conversations were completely different than they had been in the days of argument. One day, when Pheasant stood stock still, Crow noticed and said, "That was a good way to avoid being seen by enemies." Another day, when Crow was building a nest, Pheasant said, "Those sticks will make a good, strong nest. But have you thought about a way to make it a little softer inside?" Crow looked at the nest and then at his chest. He began to add some downy feathers. Talking and getting along like that made it easy to learn from each other and be together. The two friends' affection for one another was obvious. The other birds were surprised. How could Pheasant and Crow spend so much time together without quarreling? Some decided to test their friendship. "Pheasant, why do you spend so much time with that good-for-nothing Crow?" "You mustn't say that. Crow is a better bird than I, and he honors me by living with me." The next day, they went to Crow. "Crow, why do you spend so much time with that good-for-nothing Pheasant?" "You mustn't say that. Pheasant is a better bird than I, and he honors me by living with me." The birds were deeply impressed by Crow and Pheasant's attitude to one another. They began to wonder, why do we always fight and quarrel? They watched how Crow and Pheasant treated one another, and soon learned that it wasn't so difficult to be kind. They also learned that when they practiced compassion in the manner of Crow and Pheasant, life was far more enjoyable. That is how friendship and respect developed among the birds. And with that, we are going to head to our RE classes. But first, we will sing the kiddos out. Good job.
Go
I do not have any joys or sorrows to share this morning, but we do hold in our hearts all those who are struggling and all those who are celebrating. Please say with me, we hold you in our hearts. We hold you in our hearts. I invite you to join me in the spirit of meditation or prayer. There are times when all we want is quiet, when all we want is a rest and a break from the tumult, the uncertainty, the breakneck pace, the struggle. And so we pause to regain our balance, to gain perspective, to perch for a moment, and to find a place of purposeful repose. But as we pause, may we know that the struggle is what helps us grow, is what helps us strive, helps us know that what we are doing matters. We pause for a moment of shared silence amidst the noise of our lives. May we re-enter the fray of life with eager minds, with open hearts, with hands ready to reach out and help, to lift up those places where we are wounded, those places where our world is wounded, working together to heal what might be healed, and to love all that which must be loved. Amen. This poem by Wendell Berry, titled "The Wild Geese," was the inspiration for a song by Amy McCreath, What We Need Is Here, which we'll sing in just a moment. You'll be hearing more about this poem in my sermon in a few minutes. But this is The Wild Geese by Wendell Berry. Horseback on Sunday morning, harvest over, we taste persimmon and wild grape, sharp sweet of summer's end. In time's maze over fall fields, we name names that rest on graves. We open a persimmon seed to find the tree that stands in promise, pale in the seed's marrow. Geese appear high over us, pass, and the sky closes. Abandon, as in love or sleep, holds them to their way. Clear in the ancient faith, what we need is here. And we pray not for new earth or heaven, but to be quiet in heart and in eye clear. What we need is here. Mary and I will sing this a couple times through, and then we invite you to join in as you get the hang of it. Harmonies are welcome. What we need is here. What we need is here. What we two of the most popular poets among contemporary Unitarian Universalists are Mary Oliver and Wendell Berry. In fact, I think it would be a pretty safe bet to say that on any given Sunday morning, you could hear a poem by one of those poets at least one UU congregation, if not several. Mary Oliver, who died at the age of 83 several years ago, wrote beautifully about the natural world, not as an outsider, but as someone fully immersed in the world of nature, which is very much in line with our seventh UU principle, affirming the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. And she wrote about her inner life in a way that was deeply spiritual, yet very much grounded in physical experience, which goes along with our emphasis on reason and experience. Wendell Berry, who at age 88 is still very much alive and writing, reflects our UU emphasis on activism and prophetic engagement in the world. As described in The New Yorker by Dorothy Wickenden, Berry divides his time between writing and farm work, continuing his vocation of championing sustainable agriculture in a country fueled by industrial behemoths. Whenever the country struggles with a new man-made emergency, Berry is rediscovered. Berry's admirers call him an Isaiah-like prophet. Michael Pollan and Alice Waters say that he changed their lives with 5 words. Eating is an agricultural act. Mary Oliver, in an interview about 10 years ago, said something interesting about both herself and Wendell Berry. She said, "I like to think of myself as a praise poet." Asked what that meant, she replied that I acknowledge my feeling and gratitude for life by praising the world and whoever or whatever made all these things. She goes on, Wendell Berry is a wonderful poet, and he talks about this coming devastation a great deal. I just happen to think you catch more flies with honey than with vinegar. So I tried to do more of the have you noticed this wonderful thing? Do you remember? She said, I try to praise. So on one hand, we have Wendell Berry as the prophet poet who holds up a mirror in which we can see the havoc unfolding on our planet. And on the other hand, we have Mary Oliver as the praise poet who holds up a mirror in which we see the beauty that is manifest in the world. In some ways, of course, this dichotomy is false. Certainly, Berry has praised and still praises, and Oliver has pointed out brokenness in small and large ways. But whether we are prophesying or praising, we are still holding up the same mirror. In it, you can see both the beautiful and the broken. In fact, you cannot see the beautiful truly without seeing the broken. And you cannot address the brokenness until you have started to appreciate the beauty of everything. Whole, broken, remembered, suddenly realized, healed, rent and scattered. All of it praiseworthy, and all of it broken. All of it made holy by the sacred and that allows us to hold apparently disparate visions simultaneously. Two of my favorite all-time poems are Wendell Berry's The Wild Geese and Mary Oliver's Wild Geese. I read Berry's poem just a few minutes ago, and Oliver's Wild Geese was excerpted in our opening words this morning, but I'll read it in its entirety in just a moment. Mary Oliver once introduced the poem Wild Geese at a reading with a sheepish acknowledgement of its popularity. Mary Oliver was one of the few poets to actually have greatest hits, one of which was Wild Geese, and the other, I think, most likely The Summer Day. But anyway, she was acknowledging how popular this poem was when she said, George Eliot and her husband, George Lewes, used to refer to some of the material goods that they had by the names of books. They would take out their new set of dishes and say, these are the Silas Marner dishes, or the Mill on the Floss curtains, because they were paid for by money earned from those books. Mary Oliver continued, and we have at least a few cups and saucers that are the Wild Geese cups and saucers in our household. Here is Wild Geese by Mary Oliver. You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert repenting. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Tell me about despair, yours, and I will tell you mine. Meanwhile, the world goes on. Meanwhile, the sun and the clear pebbles of the rain are moving across the landscapes, over the prairies and the deep trees, the mountains and the rivers. Meanwhile, the wild geese, high in the clear blue air, are heading home again. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination, calls to you like the wild geese, harsh and exciting, over and over announcing your place in the family of things. So my question, and the question that inspired this sermon, is what is the deal with all of these wild geese? How do they keep finding their way into these poems, and what do they represent? Oliver's geese seem slightly different from Berry's geese. They seem perhaps a little warmer and a little nearer. In both poems, however, the wild geese serve, I think, a similar function as emissaries from the natural world, reminding us to get out of our own heads and look out and up on the things of nature. Our salvation lies not in self-flagellation and dwelling on our sinful natures or sinful deeds, but rather in experiencing that profound sense of connection with the world. In the words of Oliver's poem, finding our place in the family of things. The world of people may be harsh and judgmental, but the family of things beckons us to venture forth and find our place therein. And it is there in that family of things that we are able to discover and be our best and most authentic selves. And Wendell Berry sees in his geese an innate sense of faith in what is here. He says, abandon, as in love or sleep, holds them, meaning the geese, to their way. Clear in the ancient faith, what we need is here. This ancient faith that what we need is here, consciously or unconsciously, is what has sustained the natural world for millennia. It's what allows plants and animals and the earth itself to thrive and not just survive. It's what allows all the world to turn from a sense of scarcity towards a sense of abundance. Once I became aware of the wild geese images in the poetry of Wendell Berry and Mary Oliver, I started noticing them in the work of other poets as well. Wild geese make cameo appearances in dozens and dozens of poems, and they all seem to be playing a similar role. Consider, for example, this poem by Joan Mead. The geese, slicing this frozen sky, know where they are going and want to get there. Their call, both strange and familiar, calls to the strange and familiar heart. And the landscape becomes the landscape of being, which becomes the bright silos and snowy fields over which the nuanced and muscular geese are calling, while time and the heart take measure. And then there's this poem by Barbara Crooker, which begins, "Sometimes I am startled out of myself, like this morning when the wild geese came squawking, flapping their rusty hinges, and something about their trek across the sky made me think about my life, the places of brokenness, the places of sorrow, the places where grief has strung me out to dry. And then the geese come calling, the leader falling back when tired, another taking her place. You do not have to be wise. Even a goose knows how to find shelter when the corn still lies in the stubble and dried stalks. All we do is pass through here the best way we can. They stitch up the sky, and it is whole again." And finally, in a poem titled Magic by Jennifer Nostrin, those noisy geese show up one more time. The poem reads, "We were talking about magic as we drove along a crowded Sunday highway, when the whirl of wings made me turn and a flock of geese flew over our car so low I could see their feet tucked under them. For a moment, the rustle of their presence over our heads obscured everything. And as they disappeared, you said, 'I see what you mean.'" I would submit that one of the things that these various flocks of wild geese are pointing to is the need to connect or reconnect with something outside of our own thoughts. For us as Unitarian Universalists, this longing to reconnect is a central feature of our theology. Some religious traditions tend to focus on specific doctrines or beliefs about salvation or about the afterlife, but UUs tend to focus on the underlying meaning of the word religion itself, which comes from the Latin re, meaning again, and legio, meaning ligament or link. As we say in our starting point newcomer classes, for us, this means religion is most fundamentally about rebinding, tying back together, or reconnection. It's not so much about believing the right things as it is about restoring and maintaining those connections that bring wholeness and flourishing. Wild geese, for the poets and for each of us, if we're able to cultivate our awareness of them, serve as a wake-up call to get outside of our disconnected, downward spiraling ponderousness and reconnect ourselves and our souls with that force in nature and in our own natures that might bring wholeness and flourishing. The geese of Mary Oliver and Wendell-Berry are telling us, wake up, pay attention. They offer us a skyward path towards something outside our muddled thoughts that enables us to connect and reconnect with something deeper inside ourselves, something beyond ourselves, and something that connects all to all else. Oliver's geese beckon us to notice everything, the particularities of everything around us, to be our most authentic selves and to recognize our place in the family of things. Berry's geese call us to pause, to experience the grace and beauty of the natural world, that we might become quiet in heart, knowing just as the wild geese know that what we need is here. I hope and pray that we will come back to these enduring lessons from these beautiful souls and great writers, and that we will let ourselves be changed by them. May it be so. Amen. We invite you to rise in body or spirit and join in singing our hymn, Winds Be Still.
It is time for our morning offering. We don't have a designated offering this morning, so our collection will benefit Sunnyhill and will help defray our operating expenses. If you'd like to make a gift via our online giving system, you can do so by going to sunnyhill.org and click on the button that says Online Giving, and then follow the instructions. Or you can give by text at 412-324-3130. Text the amount of your gift and the word pledge if you want your payment to apply to your 2022 Sunnyhill Pledge. Otherwise, text gifts will go toward our general operating fund. You can also mail a check if you prefer, and you can find our mailing address on our website, sunnyhill.org. For those of you who are here with us in person, we'll be passing our offering baskets in just a moment. Thank you, everyone, for your generosity.
Trondle Price has an announcement for us about an upcoming social justice opportunity.
Good morning, everybody. It's great to be here. I'm up here today to talk about an opportunity Sunnyhill has to engage with and support members of the Indigenous community, as we've been called to do as UUs, to show up in allyship and friendship when that moment arises. For us, that moment will arise at the end of October with the Leonard Peltier Walk to Justice, a multi-state walk of 15 Indigenous friends and family members who are traveling on foot from Minneapolis to Washington, D.C. There, they will petition President Biden and government officials to release Leonard Peltier. He's the longest-serving Indigenous prisoner in the federal prison system. He's been in federal prison for 47 years, and he is now in poor health in his 70s. Leonard Peltier is a very high-profile political prisoner who many people of a certain generation may know, but his story's lived on, so you may have heard of him. He was jailed in 1975 for, quote, his charges aiding and abetting a firefight on Pine Ridge Reservation in Bismarck, North Dakota, where 2 federal agents and 1 Oglala teenager lost their lives. Even a cursory look at his trial shows that it was horribly flawed, and faith leaders from Mother Teresa to the late Desmond Tutu, to the Dalai Lama, to Amnesty International, and all the largest legal scholars and advocacy groups in the country, have all said he was unjustly convicted and would never have been convicted today due to exculpatory evidence that was suppressed and coercion and intimidation of witnesses, Native American witnesses. He's maintained his innocence to this day and has lived an exemplary life in prison as a beacon to his people. If you want to learn more, his stories are actually readily available online, and he was the subject of a very well-known documentary from the 90s, produced by Robert Redford and directed by Michael Apted, called Incident at Oglala. So I urge you, it's on Amazon Prime, to check it out if you really want to see his story and the story of his trial. So how can we help? What does this have to do with us? As a result of relationships we've built with UU allies and members of Indigenous communities out west, through our support of Little Feather, you may recall he was an incarcerated Standing Rock water protector. He was in federal prison near Morgantown back in 2017. Our church raised funds for him, worked to find housing for his relatives when they came to town to visit him. He was jailed in, this is Little Feather, was jailed in after protests of the Dakota Access Pipeline in Standing Rock, for those of you who are familiar with that. But our involvement with him is why they've come to ask us to host the marchers of the Leonard Peltier Justice Walk on those 5 days as they walk through Pittsburgh by foot. And they'll be here for 5 nights. They will sleep here, but we're asking for Sunnyhillers to offer showers at their homes, especially if you live nearby, and serve as church hosts, staying here and maybe in shifts in late afternoon and evening when they, and overnight when they will be here physically in our building. The dates are Wednesday, October 26th through Sunday, October 30th. We've asked First Church and UU North Hills to also help perhaps host some of these nights, and we're waiting word from them. So the marchers may not be here the entire time, but for now, we would love to get a list of interested Sunnyhillers, just expressing interest for now, who may be available that week if needed. I'll be in Fellowship Hall after the service to take sign-ups or check the beat for announcements this week. That'll also be, along with links so you can learn more about Leonard's case. I thank you for considering this opportunity to be in allyship and fellowship with our Indigenous relatives. And I think it'll be a wonderful chance to show up, open our hearts and our doors, and play a small part in hopefully righting a wrong that has reverberated for almost 50 years. Thank you.
Please join me in saying the words to extinguish our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
One more justice-related announcement before we go. Pat Murray last week spoke about some opportunities to engage with PEN, our interfaith organizing group in Pittsburgh, and they're having a major event this afternoon beginning at 1 p.m. called Trucking for Justice. Pat, where are you? Yeah, see Pat if you're interested in going. It's going to be great. There are going to be some food trucks there, also some special speakers on various topics that PEN is focusing on this year. For now, we'll close with these words. It's a poem by Mary Oliver titled "Don't Hesitate." If you suddenly and unexpectedly feel joy, don't hesitate. Give in to it. There are plenty of lives and whole towns destroyed or about to be. We are not wise and not very often kind, and much can never be redeemed. Still, life has some possibility left. Perhaps this is its way of fighting back, that sometimes something happens better than all the riches or power in the world. It could be anything, but very likely you notice it in the instant when love begins. Anyway, that's often the case. Anyway, whatever it is, don't be afraid of its plenty. Joy is not made to be a crumb. Go in peace.